Um, okay, so we're starting this Eishes Chayil class. It's so each of the verses, the Eishes Chayil start with a letter of the alphabet, the Jewish alphabet, in order. So today we're up to Hey, Haisa, Ka'anios, Socher, Mimerchak, Tavi, Lachma. And in English, that means she is like a merchant ships bringing bread from afar. Okay, now this shows on somebody who's industrious and resourceful, and we'll discuss how and why. And we're going to speak about our matriarch Rachel, and of course about Sarah, as I mentioned before. Okay, so when we think of ships, and especially, I guess not so now, but recently there's a lot of shipping issues and tariff issues and this issues and that issues. But ships bring merchandise right from across the sea, from far away. And the Eishes Chayil, the woman of valor, she brings bread and goods from far. So she isn't satisfied with just what's easy to get or what's nearby. She wants to get the best, and she's going to make sure to do what she can to get that. So if she can't get something locally, if something's not sourced locally, she's going to do what she can. She'll search for it and figure out how to get it. She also, with the own work that she does, her industrious work, I'm thinking of you, Catherine, because you have work in Korea and here and there, and she sends her it says like her tapestries or her work, her like handiwork, far away where she knows she'll get a better price. So she's going to do what she can to get a better return wherever that is. Now, besides looking at just from from the literal standpoint, like what meets the eye, we're going to look at it from a deeper standpoint. And that is that the goods and merchandise isn't just at face value, what we were just saying, but also it's about Torah and Torah education. So she is going to make sure her children get to a good Jewish school, even though it means carpooling far or whatever it means to get them there and back. And again, if or educating anyone or even educating yourself to really go and do what you can, if it means going far and or digging deep to get what she has to, she's going to do that. And Torah is compared to like bread. So it says she helps her children. So even if they're bread, their Torah is far from them, difficult for them. They're not learning well. They don't connect to it. Whatever the issues may be, she's going to make sure that that bread is brought close to them. So she's going to make sure that Torah is brought close to her children. Torah is brought close to people, that people can understand and bring it close to their hearts. Bread can also be a reward for acts of charities. So in the old days, right, ships would go sailing, and then pirates might catch it on the way. A storm might come. The ship may not. You might have ordered goods, and they might never arrive. Right, all these difficult problems. So you may have invested money into something, and it didn't come through. And even today, not through ships, but people invest in all kinds of stuff, and then something happens with the stock market, something happens with that company, and not do you always get a return. Sometimes you lose your money. But the woman of valor, she makes sure that so her acts of charity is as if like it's her investment, and doesn't mean just giving tzedakah, but it means anything that she does to help other people. All these different things she does to help other people. She her profit, her return is from Hashem, and that's like her bread. Now, she'll generate this great blessings for all the hard work that she does, all the charitable work that she does. And bringing bread from afar means that so she benefits from the fruit. So she got the fruit of her labor in like here and now, in like down here in this world, but the ship from afar, meaning she should like all her like the real investment, the real money that she gets in the return, the real bread is goes to Olam Haba, to the next world. And when the time comes when when her soul returns, she'll have all that waiting for her, all that bread, KKA reward, waiting for her in there. And we say every day in our davening, in our prayers, Elu Devarim, these are the things that I'm just trying to keep it a second, translate it. That these are the things that people eat fruit from this world, but the real Karen Kayemis, but the real reward is in the world to come. And then it lists a whole bunch of charitable things that people do. You know, hey, keep it up. Hey, honoring your father and mother, getting up in the morning for prayers. Yeah, acts of kindness, having guests. Yeah, honoring your father and mother. I said that. Visiting the sick,
Dowering the
giving money
bride.
to the poor. Yes, thank you, Lana. Or whoever said that. Was that Lana?
Dowering the bride.
But yeah, helpfully money, giving money for the bride. Okay, and going to a funeral, so accompanying someone to you know to their burial. Yeah, and so all these different things are charitable acts, plus you know all the other things that you know you could think of that are charitable that you don't particularly get a return from, but you get a real return because God gives you something in this world for it, and then He gives you in the next world the real reward is waiting for you. So we're going to discuss who does this compare to. This compares to Rachel, who was the wife of Yaakov, our matriarch Rachel. She was also the mother of Yosef. Okay, and we're going to see a lot of comparisons between her and Yosef today. So, we, yeah, 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 yeah. But he's not as famous. He's kind of just like kind of following him along. Yeah, we're gonna discuss that too. So Yaakov, remember he takes the blessings from Esav. Esav gets all upset. Yaakov has to run away to save his life. Where does he go? He goes to a place called Aram Naharaim. That is the city, the town where Lavan, his uncle, lives. And he gets there, and I don't know why, all the stories in the Bible, I like this, all the Torah stories, I like this. He comes to the center of town, aka the well, and he sees Rachel there, and he right away sees that his destiny is intertwined with her. And he also sees that it's not going to be an easy destiny. It's not going to be something easy. And he goes to her and he kisses her and he cries. Okay. Now he meets Lavan, his uncle, and it's Rachel's father, and they make an agreement that he works 7 years so he can marry her. Mm-hmm. Everyone knows what happens after the 7 years. You know, Rachel and Yaakov kind of know that that Lavan's a swindler and he may trick her, and so they make these signs, they make a code, so they know that when this comes time under the canopy, they're going to know for sure that it's Rachel, and everything will work out okay. The wedding comes, and Yaakov, you know, does his little code thing, and he gets an answer, and he's like, "Great, this is Rachel, who I intended," because because they know that Rachel had an older sister, Leah, and you know that she might go there instead. Anyway, it's dark. He doesn't really see, and whatever his story is. And in the morning he wakes up, and lo and behold, it's not Rachel, it's Leah. And he says, "Oh my goodness, what happened?" So he's saying, "What's going on here?" Right? How did Leah? How we did the codes? How was I duped like this? We were supposed to this was supposed to be what's it called? Totally, we were supposed to figure this out no matter what, and instead somehow our plan didn't work anyway. Well, so what happened?
No, but what do you call it? No, but Leah gave Rachel the code.
Rachel gave Leah.
I mean, Rachel gave Leah the code.
So what happens? Rachel.
Who's want to embarrass her sister? Embarrass her.
Yeah. So they make the so Rachel at first. So she said, "Oh my gosh, okay, I want to marry this guy. He's a love him. You know, I love him. He loves me, and let us make this code so there are no tricks. Nothing happens. You know, let's make sure that everything goes right." But once she does that, and she realizes what will happen if Leah is under the the wedding canopy, the chuppah, whatever it was, and Yaakov does this code thing, Leah doesn't respond, what kind of embarrassment and shame it will be for Leah. What, how mortified she'll be, stand there, and how can I put my sister through such pain? And so she said, I have to share the codes with her. Now, she also knew through divine prophecy that the Jewish people, the 12 tribes, are not going to only come from her, but they also come from her sister Leah. And she also knew that there'll be two kingdoms of Israel. There'll be the Yehuda, the kingdom from Judah, and the kingdom from Yosef, from Manasseh. So she did have this divine inspiration that had to happen anyway. And so she also did not want her sister. That was the main reason. She did not want her sister to feel hurt or anything. And so she put aside any jealousy that she may have. And which is, I mean, think about it. I don't know. I can't even imagine. Today, right? That's what happened to me, right? Think of today, all those like triangle, crazy love stories and this and that. Anyway, so she gave those coats to Leah so her sister would not be hurt, and she did not know if what would happen with her. Would she get to marry Yaakov? Would she not? And when that would take place. Usually when a new, you have a small little town, right? And I don't know, you have the town, and let's say something, the town shoemaker, because we'll do a simple one. And a new guy moves into town and just puts up a little sign in front of his store, new shoemaker in town. The old shoemakers say, hey, what's going on over here? I don't want some competition. Right. What's going to be? I'm going to lose my business. What if he's better than me? And he's the old person of town, like the veteran of the town, is usually going to feel a little bit, a little bit nervous, a little bit upset about this new person coming to take away his business or to be in competition with him or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So Rachel was Yaakov's first love. Now Leah comes along and she's going to marry him. How does Rachel know how maybe Yaakov's going to like her and maybe she'll be second fiddle now? What's it going to be like? But she didn't feel like that. She totally let Leah, whatever, go on her place. And then she didn't resist or anything or resent. And, once she did end up marrying Yaakov 7 days later, in part of this whole story.
7 days.
7 days, yeah. She still loved Leah. She still continued to support her and help her and be like a sister to her.
But 7 days?
Yeah.
I thought it was 7 years.
So she was able to get married 7 days later, but he had to work for 7 years just for that.
Oh.
So he ended up working a total of 14 years. But the second 7 years, they were married.
Oh.
Okay.
It's in the.
Can I ask a question? So it's a little bit unclear because was he truly married or just he was tricked and he was not consuming the marriage and waiting?
No, he consummated the marriage because that night, I guess they didn't have enough candles. I know it was dark. And so they were sisters. They didn't look pretty similar. So he did consummate the marriage and he was married. And no, he did not divorce her or anything the next morning. Maybe Rachel convinced him just keep it that way, or maybe he realized that this was destined to be. I don't know exactly why he just he left it like that. But in those days they did marry more than one wife. Right. It was a normal thing. What was interesting is according to Torah, a guy even the days that people married two women, you're not allowed to marry two sisters. So this in itself was a very interesting thing that this stated, this worked.
I wonder why.
Okay.
Why what?
Why what?
It seems like the whole Davidic whatever chain, it's always through those things that are unorthodox.
That's right. But exactly. Because that's how everything has to happen. That's how Mashiach even has to come.
God uses everything, yeah.
Even the first, the Yehuda's, right? The Mashiach comes from Yehuda, right?
Yes.
Yehuda's the first, he marries Tamar. Tamar, right?
Yeah.
So that's so there is actually a whole Kabbalistic explanation on this whole thing, and it goes along, and then Ruth who's convert. She ends up right. She's the
came from the dad, her daughter, father thing, right. Moab. She came from the dad, but dad, right. But that was weird. Exactly.
No, but even forget about that story. She herself.
I can't forget about that story.
She herself goes to Boaz.
Right.
Yeah, right.
People said that wasn't right because she was a Moabite. Remember, people didn't like the fact that she and Boaz got married.
Oh, she converted.
She converted, but the issue was that you weren't officially allowed to marry a Moabite, and people thought a man or a woman from Moab, even though she was a woman.
But she was married to a Jew before.
Right.
She converted. She married to a Jew.
Right. But
another Jew.
People thought it was a little bit of hanky business.
Even
though it was kosher, it didn't look kosher to some people's eyes.
The first marriage?
No, the second marriage. First marriage no one knew about because that wasn't in Israel. But when she came back,
in
she married
Israel.
Boaz, and Boaz was the head of the Sanhedrin. He was a big guy, and he marries this woman. How can you marry a Moabite? I thought we can't.
No, but she's Jewish.
Right, but they looked at it as just but you weren't allowed to convert a Moab.
Well, it happened before she married.
No, she did, but that wasn't so easy. It wasn't so
she was a divorcee.
Whatever. I mean,
she wasn't divorced. He died.
He died.
No, this husband died.
Anyway, let's get back to our story.
Husband died.
So,
Because Naomi's
so
son
what's interesting is many years later,
Naomi's son
I
married.
know.
the descendant of Rachel is King Shaul. Okay, King Saul. Shaul. Shaul, if you remember, he's king.
Mm-hmm.
Then the kingdom kind of gets taken away from him, and Hashem tells Shmuel Hanavi, Samuel the prophet, to anoint King David as king. David was a young guy. He was from the Judah.
Who says to anoint him?
Hashem tells
Hashem, sorry, Hashem.
Shmuel Hanavi, Shmuel.
Well, okay, to anoint David.
To anoint David.
Right.
David is from the Judean, right? From Yehuda. Okay,
right.
so Yehuda is from Leah.
Right.
Shaul is from Rachel.
Right.
Shaul's son, Yonatan, which would have been the heir to the king, right? Or maybe possibly the heir to the king. He and David become best friends.
Right.
So instead of Yehonatan, who was the descendant of Rachel, being upset and jealous and angry at David, he helps David. He actually saves his life, and he protects him against his father who's out to kill him.
Right.
So we see this idea of not being jealous and letting the other person who's supposed to be and let it happen. He follows in his great grandmother's footsteps. Very interesting. Okay, so she passed down this idea of love and not jealousy to her children, to her descendants. Okay, so anyway, so life isn't easy for them, even though after all this, they get married. Now Leah's married to Yaakov, Rachel's married to Yaakov. They're living out in this, whatever. He's out being a shepherd half the time. And Leah starts to have children. Rachel does not, right? So this is another, could be an area of contention. Rachel at some point is so jealous about it. She's so upset, but it wasn't a bad or hateful type of jealousy. In a way, it was a good jealousy. So she comes to Yaakov and says, what's going on? You have to pray that I'm going to have I should get pregnant. Why am I not getting pregnant? And he says, no, you have to pray. He already has kids. What does he care? No,
he doesn't care.
I'm just kidding.
He's a nice guy.
So he's saying you have to pray. So she finally prays, and eventually, she prays more than once, whatever. Eventually, but she's thinking, why do I not merit to have a child? Why is my sister merit? Is she better than me?
She's also the beloved one, though. Rachel was the one who had his affection and attention and attraction, and Leah didn't, but she had all the kids.
And all of Leah's children are named, maybe my husband will company now. Now my husband has to be with me now. So they're all like that. See how much
sad, actually.
See how my husband doesn't love me. So it's really sad. It is sad. But they were all special people, and they also saw things from a higher perspective, not just from a mundane, materialistic place. Like we say it from, do they love me? Do they not? But they see themselves as being part of a way bigger picture. Only we could see that today. We might be so jealous of this and that.
Right.
Okay.
Yes and that.
Anyway, so she prays. She finally, so it's a good jealousy because she doesn't want anything bad on Rachel, but she just wants something good for herself. And Hashem blesses her with a son, Yosef. Yosef means to add. So because she says, Yosef li ben acher, Hashem, give me another son. So as soon as Yosef's born, she asks for another son. And Hashem, of course, gives her a second child, Binyamin, but she dies during childbirth. And then she gets buried where? Not in a special place, but on the road in Beis Lechem. And we know that many years later, when the Jews were exiled, they pass her tomb at the side of the road, and they start to cry and beg Hashem for mercy. And she goes to Hashem and she says, I wasn't jealous for my sister. I let my sister marry my beloved. You shouldn't be jealous of the idols that the Jewish people are worshiping, because they were worshiping idols, and that's why they were exiled. And so you shouldn't be jealous of the Jews for their other love. Yes, she said that.
To who?
To Hashem.
Hashem?
Yes.
Wow, that's...
And even though Avram tried, Moshe tried, Yaakov, other people tried to ask Hashem, please. And so Hashem said, fine, the Jews will return. I just want to read you the wording, return to their borders. So she says, hey, a voice was heard on high, lamentation and bitter weeping. It is the voice of Rachel crying for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children, for they are gone from their home. God then reassured her. What does Hashem answer her? Keep your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for there is reward for your work. And they shall return from the land of the enemy. The children will return to their home. So this prayer and this cry from her and this answer from Hashem makes a big difference for the Jewish people. Why? So it keeps them tied together spiritually. We know that we're one people and we're not going to just go scattered all over the earth and never find each other again. We know one day we're going to come back to the land of Israel. So it keeps a certain unity within them. Now, the road that they're passing on their way to exile, they'll pass on the way back to Israel. So number 2. Number 3, so it's a consolation for all the Jewish people. Always we know that because of Rachel's cry, Hashem gave this promise to us that we'll return, Mashiach will come, we'll have the redemption, the final redemption. Now, what's interesting is, so she was buried on the side of the road. Years later, when it's time for Yaakov to go, right? We just read in 2 weeks ago in the Parsha, and Yaakov calls Yosef, please bury me in Israel, don't leave me here in Egypt. And Yosef doesn't say, well, you buried my mother on the road, but Yaakov right away answers him. He says, your mother, she wanted to be buried there. If we would have buried her in the Hebron, in the cave of Machpelah, where I'll be buried, where all the other, four parents are buried, she wouldn't accept that because she wants to be there for her children. She wants to be on the side of the road.
I mean, they could exhume her and move it.
Yeah, but no, they didn't.
They didn't, right.
Okay, so Rachel produced a child, a ship full of merchandise, Yosef, because what did Yosef do? He changed the world. He was in Egypt. He led the world through famine. He saved people from starving. And so he sustained the world. So through her child, through her having good merchandise, good merch, he was the person. He was a very special person, Yosef. He also does not get jealous when his brothers come and he could have gotten them back and done whatever he wanted to them. But they come to Egypt. He cried.
He's always running away crying. He's hiding. He's
He also is not a jealous person and not upset about his brothers. This is what's supposed to happen. This is what was supposed to be, and that's that. So she created this beautiful child who sustains the world. So her pain is what gave him that merit. Now we're going to talk about, so that's Rachel, okay? How we compare Rachel to this verse. Now we'll talk about Sarah for a few minutes. I know you have to go.
I know, I feel really bad.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I'll listen to the rest of the recording.
Yeah, no problem. Great to see you though. Thanks for coming in.
Okay, thank you. Well, good luck in your travels and your
Bye, Catherine.
and your business and things. Bye.
Okay, so now I'm going to discuss Sarah.
Feel better, Shelley.
Sarah traveled a lot in her life. She started off, was born on the other side of the Euphrates River, I guess somewhere in Africa. Not sure exactly where.
Africa.
Euphrates, that's Africa, right? No? Or is that Asia? No.
It's Asia.
It's Asia?
Asia.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Asia. You get to China. Euphrates. 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 There is no Euphrates in Africa.
I'm thinking something else.
The Suez Canal is the one that.
I'm thinking of the somebody's going.
Okay.
Anyway. So sorry, she's born on the other side of the Euphrates River. She crosses over the Euphrates. She marries Abraham. They move to the land of Canaan. From Canaan, they're always moving around place to place. So the idea of the pasuk that says the ship, she's like a merchant ship. She's always moving around. Okay. Now, usually someone's moving around and there's different things happening in their life. You relate to, depending on what's happening in your life now. So let's say somebody's taking care of their parents. They're in that stage of life. So everything they see, they're going to connect to other people who are dealing with aging parents, right? And they're going to talk to those people. And someone who's running around, taking a tour around the world. They're like, leave me, get me out of here. I can't do what you're doing right now. I'm taking care of my parents, right? Or if somebody is in the childbearing years and they're dealing with their kids running all over their house, and they, and someone's like, I'm off to this place. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. No. I'm taking care of my kids, and they only talk to other people and want to connect with people who are doing what they're doing. So that's how most of us are, right? We automatically connect to what is the prime thing going on in our life. And that's what makes us the priority. So if someone's poor, they're all talking about prices, whatever the situation is. Now, tzaddikim, righteous people, are different. They're consistent. There's no difference what they're going through. Their connection to God and what's in the forefront of their mind is the same. So Sarah went through many difficulties, right? She went through infertility. She went through famine. She was kidnapped by Paro. She was kidnapped by Avimelech. And yet she remains consistent. Her priorities and her connection to God don't change. She always has that strong connection and strong trust and belief in God, and that doesn't change. She always shows up for Hashem no matter what. And in the end, she raises a beautiful child, Yitzchak, after all of many years of waiting. So that is just in short what about Sarah. And now, before we end, I want to discuss. Yesterday was a very special day because it was the birthday of the Rebbe's mother, Rebbe Simchana. Okay.
Is that the last day of Tevet or the
28th of Tevet?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to share for the people on the screen. I'll show you guys in the book, whoever's here.
Ari was born the 26th, close.
Oh, my sister's the 27th.
27th. Oh, then she's the 28th. Oh, wow. Tevet. Wow.
Okay, 1 second, guys. Okay, so let me just go here. Okay.
My daughter's birthday was Tevet 26.
Okay.
She's Tevet 28.
So Rebbe Simchana is the Rebbe's.
This one.
Yes. Already. Yeah, it was like 2 days ago.
Okay, the Rebbe's mother. She was born January 12th, 1880, or the Hebrew date of 28th of Teves, in a place called Nikolaev, Russia, which I think today they changed the name to Mykolaiv. I have no clue why.
Well, because
okay. They're not Nicholas. Okay.
Nicholas is a czar. They want to get rid of that.
Right.
They cut that.
So they call it They call it Mykolaiv.
They get rid of the.
Okay.
Right.
She was born to Rabbi Meir Shlomo and Rachel Yanovsky. She married the Rebbe's father, who was a great Kabbalist and rabbi. His name was Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Schneerson, and he was the great grandchild of the third Chabad Rebbe. Okay. Now, in her younger years, they'd say she had a really good ear for music. She liked to sing. And anyway, eventually, the couple started off in Nikolaev, where she, was born, grew up. But they eventually moved to the city of Yekaterinoslav, which is today called Dnipro, Ukraine. And he became the rabbi there from 1907 to 1939. So over 30 years. Okay. So even though communism came along during that time, he was still the official rabbi until eventually they arrested him for his spreading of Judaism or whatever they considered counter-revolutionary activities he was doing. Their home was kind of like the precursor of a Chabad house today. Because in those days, I guess anything back in those days, religious people hung out with the religious things. Non-religious people usually stayed far away. Maybe one not religious person would show up at a show once in a while or whatever it is. But because of communism, a lot of the Jews were very, very secular. A lot of them were part of the Communist Party.
Yes.
At the same time, they did have some connection, especially back in the early days of communism. They did have some connection with Judaism, or their parents, pushed them, or whatever the story was. And their home and their services, the services that he ran in his shul, was mostly totally secular, non-religious Jews. And this was back in the 20s, whatever, in the 30s. And a lot of very professional, educated people would come to them for advice, to talk, for something religious. But a lot of the times it had to be utmost secrecy because it couldn't, it wasn't allowed.
Right.
Jewish practice wasn't allowed.
Right.
So judges and engineers and doctors and accountants and lawyers, they were all part of this congregation, all part of the people in influence. And people would always be coming into their apartment, into their home, and talking with them, discussing with them. A lot of times, a lot of secret religious rituals would take place for these people who otherwise would never do anything religious.
But no, secretly, it's not. Secretly, it's not secret Jewish rituals.
Sorry.
It's Jewish rituals and done secretly.
Okay,
because that implies,
No problem.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. One late night in 1935, about midnight, there was a knock at their door. And so this is the Rebbe Simchana's memoir. She wrote this.
She wrote herself.
She wrote like a diary,
Wow.
and then, they added some stuff. And
this is her own book. Wow.
Yeah. So,
when did she write? What year did she write?
She wrote this throughout her life, and then I'm not sure.
Well, when was it published? She means like.
It was published, as far as I know, I would say in the 1990s.
Well, it says in the front. It says in the front. If you look at the first page.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. We can just look at it later. It's on the first page. Yeah, it's on the first page.
So she opens the door. A woman's standing there at the door. The woman looks around, make sure no one's listening, because this is, again, everything is being eavesdropped on in the Soviet Union at that time.
Yes.
And
it's still today. No, it doesn't change. Still today.
And she comes in, and she goes to the rabbi, to Rabbi Simchana's husband, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, in a low voice. She says, "Rabbi, I just came in from a far city. In an hour, my daughter
is gonna come off a train with her fiance. They both hold high government positions. Okay. No one can know that they're coming. They're coming in secrecy. But the only reason they're coming, I pleaded with them. I cried to them. They should have a kosher wedding. They should have a chuppah,
A Jewish marriage.
a Jewish marriage.
Yeah.
And they said they'll do it on condition that only you, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, will do it because they don't trust anyone else. And so exactly at midnight, the little knock at the door, the couple comes in, covered, their faces all covered. You see today, all the faces covered. Yeah, it's not something new. Their faces are covered. No one just know who they are. Rabbi Levi puts together a minyan in the middle of the night because you need to have a minyan to do a chuppah. And they had to find people who they knew would not say a word, would never report to the government, to the authorities, to a neighbor. If you want more books, I don't want to expound on this. I have a whole bunch of books of people who lived through this. And they'll explain to you how crazy and scary it was and how their own best friends and children would report on their parents if they would catch them doing something that was illegal.
So report on his own parents.
Okay, so they got 9 men in the room.
Well, he reported his own parents.
He's self-hating.
No, he reported his own
We'll discuss this later.
No,
They got nine men in the room, and they needed one more person. In the building, there was a young man who was the government supervisor of the building. So every building had a supervisor of that building who kept an eye on who's coming in the room, apartments, who's going out of the apartments.
Right.
There was an official rule that not more than 8 people could be in an apartment at one time because it was not healthy, COVID. But at the same time, it was because they just didn't want to have a religious
they knew the number. Right, they knew the number.
So the rabbi himself went to that guy's doors in the middle of the night and knocks on the door and says, I need you for a minyan.
He's Jewish.
And he's Jewish. And he says, me? And he said, yes, we need you. And he comes into the apartment. He's the 10th man for the minyan. They quickly read a ksuba. They sign it. They do everything. The whole time, the groom and the bride are covered, so no one knows who they are. And the ceremony begins. And they do the whole entire chuppah inside this teeny apartment. Finally, at about 1:30 in the morning, the newlyweds depart. They leave, so anyone knows who they are. And everybody else comes to the rabbi and says, wow, now we're here. Now we're here with you, Rabbi. We can't leave. All this, all this, and they take out their communist membership card and say, all this is nothing to us when we're with you. Because they felt the holiness. They felt the everything in that room.
Yeah. Wow.
That's just one of the many stories that the Rebbetzin, Hannah, and her husband kind of things that they had to deal with. Anyway, so one of the things that happened is also, sorry, I'm gonna get ahead of myself. Okay.
Well, we don't know we're getting ahead of yourself.
Okay, yeah.
We wouldn't know
Sorry.
that.
Okay. So anyway, Rabbi Simchana, she was always elegantly dressed. She spoke a very good Russian, so very intelligent. So these kind of people loved speaking to her and loved spending time with her. She had 3 children. The oldest was the Rebbe. The second one's name was Dov Ber. He was killed by the Nazis in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
The third's name was Yisrael Aryeh Leib. He was a great mathematician. He lived in England, I guess, eventually. I'm not sure when he immigrated there, and he's buried in the city of Tzfat. He died very young in his late 40s. So just a few little things. She was very proud of her children and how diligent they were and how smart they were and how well they studied they were. They never went to a non-Jewish school. They always just studied at home, but they would go to the school, to the public school for finals, and they always passed it with flying colors. She one time, her youngest son, the mathematician, Aryeh Leib, she wanted to show a guest how intense he was when he studied. And she said, look, watch this. And she goes to him and she says, Aryeh Leib. No response. She goes over to him and she shakes him. No response. Okay, and she says, see how well he studies? Anyway, another time. Okay, I'll go ahead. Okay, so anyway, so in 1927, the Rebbe, the oldest of her children, he left Ukraine to marry his wife, who had to run away with her father out of Russia because her father had already been in jail and everything, and he had to get out. So he got married in Warsaw. So she and her husband, they were not at the wedding because they couldn't leave Ukraine.
Ukraine, right.
Instead, they made a party, they made a celebration in their home the same exact time as the wedding in Warsaw. And rejoiced. I mean, people came over. Anyway, she did not see her son again until 1947 or something, or later. Okay? Her husband died in exile, so he never got to see his son again. Okay? In 1939, he was actually arrested for his work in keeping Judaism, alive. And he was sentenced to exile in a small little town. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it seems like Chile, but not really Chile, Kazakhstan. Okay? Which is what the kind of far eastern end of Russia, kind of close to the Iranian,
close to Iran. Yes,
and it was a very primitive place. And she, as soon as he was arrested, the whole time, and he was, at that time was considered an elderly man. He was probably in his early 60s. And she went and tried to find him and tried to help him and tried to get him food and everything. And once she found out he was exiled to this place, she followed him. She came to try to help him and lift his spirits and make things good for him, because it was a terrible place. Yet you got there, you were considered a prisoner. You had to find a place to live on your own. You have to figure out your own food and everything. Right. It was really, really, and it was very primitive. Not similar to what they were used to living in a city. And the people, they were very primitive and old. Not say old fashioned. That's not even the right word, but
they're not advanced.
Living, more than that. Yeah. Very simple people. Right. And so he had to get himself a room in a house of a lady. They were able to rent one room, and he shared it for a while with somebody, and then she came. So and the woman who owned the house, she would sit and roast a big pig, right outside. It was a very, very difficult place. In the summer, the place was so hot; it was full of mosquitoes. But she did whatever she could to make his life simpler and easier. And she one of the things she did is she collected herbs from the. I'll show this to you guys.
Okay.
She this one. She collected herbs because he's he would study. She brought him some of the books. He was able to study because I want to write down my thoughts on paper. And there was no paper. There was no ink. There was nothing. So I'm going to show you guys. So she took so she found herbs, she made ink out of it, and then he would use the empty sides, the what's it called, of the I'll just show it to you here, I'll show it to you later on the paper. And see on the side there's little notes. He wrote those notes with the ink she made.
Wow. Oh my god.
And
oh my god, wow.
And eventually he got sick, he ended up passing away. And she was able to, when she smuggled her, she got her out of Russia illegally. She went out on a Polish passport. She not only took herself out like that, but she took his books and his writings out. So today we have books that are written from those notes. I can show it to you here when I think I have them here.
What was the age difference between him and her?
I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. He passed away, I think he was 66 in 1944.
And how old was
and she was born in 1880. So you can do the math. Okay.
Yeah.
She tried whatever she could to get food for them. One time she got a whole order for Passover, and she had to go down to the next town to go pick it up. By the time she got home, all the food had spoiled. It was a very difficult life. Anyway, so he died in 1944, 66. He was buried in a place called Alma-Ati. It was a small Jewish community there. And she eventually was able to escape to Russia in 1947. She got to Paris, and the Rebbe went to Paris to meet her, and got all the paperwork and brought her back to America with him. And she passed away in 1964. So she was sensitive, she was pleasant, she was a dignified person. She was very proud of her children, especially of the Rebbe, because he was the one that actually lived with her, the end years of he was the only one alive the end years of her life. And she is the one that shared many of the stories that the Rebbe.
When did she die? What year did she die?
1964.
64. Okay, got it.
So I just want to share a little with you about Rebbe Simchana, whose birthday, and who brought us a very special person, whose all the teachings that we learn and know.